The stellar observatory Hawking drifted silently through the void between stars, its massive sensor arrays collecting whispers from the cosmos. Dr. Sarah Chin stood at the main observation deck, her dark eyes reflecting the gleam of distant stars. 20 years of deep space research had taught her patience, but something about today felt different. Dr. Chin called Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez from his station. "We're picking up something unusual in grid sector 47. His fingers danced across the holographic interface, bringing up a complex waveform that pulsed with an eerily regular pattern. Sarah moved to his station, her movements practiced in the low gravity. "Show me the frequency analysis." The display shifted, revealing layers of mathematical precision that couldn't be natural. "It's not random noise," she breathed, "and it's not following any known stellar patterns." The bridge crew gathered around, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of the displays. Captain Diana Wells, a veteran of 3 deep space expeditions, studied the data with narrowed eyes. "Could it be interference from one of our probes?" "Negative," Rodriguez answered. "All probes are accounted for, and this signal." He paused, double-checking his readings. "It's coming from inside the Helix Nebula." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. The Helix Nebula had been their destination for months, chosen for its unique chemical composition. But nothing in their preliminary scans had suggested artificial structures or signals. "Full stop," Captain Wells commanded. "Dr. Chin, I want a complete analysis." "Lieutenant Rodriguez, begin passive scans of the entire sector. If something's out there, I want to know what we're dealing with before we get any closer." Hours stretched into days as the Hawking's sophisticated instruments probed the mystery. Sarah barely slept, spending every available moment analyzing the signal. It wasn't just a beacon or a simple transmission, it was a complex matrix of information, layers upon layers of data woven together with incredible precision. On the 4th day, she made the breakthrough. "It's a language," she announced to the assembled senior staff, her voice trembling with excitement. "But not just any language, it's a mathematical construct designed to be understood by any species capable of advanced computation." Captain Wells leaned forward in her chair. "Can you decode it?" "Parts of it," Sarah nodded, bringing up a series of translations. It's a distress signal. But not a conventional one. The entity or entities sending this are trying to preserve something. They're asking for help, but they're also offering knowledge in return." The captain's expression grew serious. "Could it be a trap?" "We've all heard the stories about the Proxima incident." Sarah shook her head. "This is different. The complexity, the elegance of the mathematical structures, whoever built this wanted to be absolutely certain their intentions couldn't be misunderstood. They've included proofs, scientific concepts we're only beginning to grasp. It's like they're proving their peaceful intentions through pure mathematics." "Location?" Wells asked, turning to Rodriguez. "We've narrowed it down to a structure deep within the nebula," he reported. "About 3 light days from our current position. It's massive, at least 20 kilometers in diameter." The captain stood, pacing the conference room with measured steps. Humanity had encountered alien artifacts before, but most had been remnants of long-dead civilizations. Nothing quite like this. "Recommendations?" she asked, looking at each senior officer in turn. Chief Engineer Patel spoke first. "The Hawking was built for deep space research. We have the shielding to handle the nebula's radiation, and our computational systems are state-of-the-art. If anyone's equipped to make first contact, it's us." Security Chief Watson wasn't so optimistic. "The signal's been broadcasting for who knows how long. Why hasn't anyone else investigated? We should at least wait for backup." "The nearest support vessel is 6 months away," Rodriguez pointed out. "If this really is a distress signal." Sarah stood, drawing everyone's attention. "Captain, look at this." She brought up a new display, showing energy readings from the structure. "These patterns are degrading. Whatever power source they're using, it's failing. If we wait, we might lose this opportunity forever." Captain Wells studied the data for a long moment. 20 years of command had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, they were telling her this was important. "Plot a course," she ordered. "But we proceed with extreme caution. I want continuous scans as we approach." Dr. Chen, keep working on that translation. The more we understand before we arrive, the better. As the Hawking began its careful approach through the nebula's swirling gases, Sarah returned to her lab. The signal grew stronger, revealing new layers of complexity. She worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of an alien language that spoke through pure mathematics. What emerged was extraordinary. The beings who created this signal had achieved technological advances that seemed almost magical, but they had also faced a catastrophe of unimaginable scale. They had found a way to preserve themselves, to endure beyond the death of their physical forms, but now even that preservation was failing. They're not just asking for rescue, she realized. They're offering us a chance to prevent the same fate from befalling humanity. The Hawking's approach took another 3 days, each hour bringing new revelations. The structure revealed itself gradually through the nebula's veil, a vast geometric shape that defied conventional architecture, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Energy readings are stable but declining, Rodriguez reported as they made their final approach. No sign of defensive systems or weapons. But there's something else. He adjusted his scans. The structure's molecular composition, it's like nothing we've ever seen. It's not just a station, it's almost alive. Captain Wells stood at the center of the bridge, watching as the alien structure filled their view screens. Dr. Chen, are you confident in your translations? Sarah nodded, though her heart was racing. Yes, Captain. They've provided detailed docking procedures and safety protocols. They want us to succeed. They've been waiting for someone like us. Like us? Security Chief Watson asked. A species advanced enough to understand their message, but young enough to still appreciate the value of preservation, Sarah explained. They've been watching, waiting for the right civilization to find them. The captain took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Begin docking procedures. All hands to first contact stations. Whatever we find in there, we handle it by the book. Humanity's first deliberate contact with an alien intelligence needs to go right. As the Hawking's docking systems engaged with the ancient structure, Sarah felt a shiver of anticipation. Through the view screens, she could see patterns of light rippling across the station's surface, almost like it was welcoming them. We're about to make history, Captain Wells said quietly. Let's hope we're ready for what we find. The airlock systems engaged with a soft hiss, and humanity prepared to meet whatever waited within the depths of this mysterious ark. Sarah Chen knew that whatever they discovered would change their understanding of the universe forever. She just hoped they were equal to the task ahead. The airlock cycled with a whisper, revealing a corridor that seemed to glow from within. Dr. Sarah Chen led the first contact team, each member encased in their environmental suits. The structure's atmosphere was breathable according to their scans, but no one was taking chances. Remarkable, Chief Engineer Patel breathed, running his scanner over the walls. The entire structure is composed of programmable matter, crystals that can reconfigure themselves at the molecular level. The corridor stretched before them, curving gently upward. As they walked, lights pulsed beneath their feet, creating a path that responded to their presence. Sarah noticed that the walls seemed to ripple slightly, as if the entire structure was subtly alive. Movement ahead, Security Chief Watson reported, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. But what emerged from around the curve wasn't a physical being. It was a projection, a shimmering hologram that coalesced into a form that seemed deliberately designed to appear non-threatening. The hologram spoke, its voice translating directly into their comm systems using the mathematical language Sarah had decoded. Welcome, Seekers. We are the archivists of the Nexus. You have correctly interpreted our call for aid. Captain Wells stepped forward. I am Captain Diana Wells of the Earth research vessel Hawking. We've come in response to your distress signal. The hologram flickered slightly, its form shifting. Time grows short. Please, follow. We will show you what must be preserved. They were led deeper into the structure, through chambers that defied physics and geometry. Each room they passed seemed larger than the exterior of the station should allow. Sarah's instruments were recording everything, but she knew it would take years to understand even a fraction of what they were seeing. Finally, they entered what could only be described as the heart of the archive. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. At the center, a column of pure energy stretched from floor to ceiling, containing what looked like countless points of light. This, the hologram explained, is what remains of our civilization. 10 million consciousness patterns preserved in quantum crystal matrices. We are the last of the Nexus, a species that achieved technological transcendence 5 million of your years ago. Sarah stepped closer to one of the crystal walls, fascinated by the complex patterns within. What happened to your physical forms? We chose to evolve beyond them, the hologram replied. Our bodies were inefficient, limited. We transferred our consciousness into these matrices, allowing us to explore the universe in ways our physical forms never could. But now, the hologram flickered again, more severely this time. Throughout the chamber, lights dimmed momentarily. Our power source is failing. The quantum matrices are degrading. Without intervention, all that we are, all that we know, will be lost forever. Captain Wells frowned. Why didn't you preserve backup power systems? We did. Many of them. But time is a patient enemy. One by one, our redundancies failed. We sent out our call countless millennia ago, but you're the first to both receive and understand it. Many came before, but they were not ready. You have the perfect balance of technological advancement and biological understanding. Chief Engineer Patel had been studying his readings intently. The power degradation is accelerating. By my calculations, the primary systems will fail within 3 months. Correct, the hologram confirmed. But there is hope. Your species possesses something we lost long ago, the ability to merge biological and technological systems. We have observed your neural interfaces, your synthetic organ replacements, your biological computers. You understand both the organic and the digital in ways we never did. Sarah began to understand. You want us to help you find a way to transfer your consciousness patterns into new forms? Yes. We offer all of our knowledge in exchange. Our scientific understanding, our historical records, our technological achievements, all of it would be yours. But more importantly, you would prevent the death of an entire civilization. Captain Wells turned to her team. Dr. Chen, what do you think? Sarah's mind was racing with the implications. The technological challenges are enormous, but think of what we could learn. Their understanding of consciousness itself, of quantum computing, of energy manipulation, it could advance human knowledge by centuries. The risks are just as enormous, Watson pointed out. We'd be bringing potentially alien consciousnesses back to our civilization. No offense, she added to the hologram. Your caution is understandable, the hologram replied. We propose a gradual approach. Transfer one consciousness first into a limited form. Study it. Understand it. Only when you are confident should you proceed further. Patel spoke up again. The energy requirements alone would be staggering. The Hawking systems weren't designed for anything like this. We can help modify your systems, the hologram offered. We have been preparing for this moment for millions of years. We have considered every possibility, every potential solution. We only lack the means to implement them. Captain Wells was quiet for a long moment, considering. Finally, she spoke. We'll need to contact Earth Command. A decision this significant can't be made unilaterally. Of course, the hologram agreed. But please, be swift. Every moment brings us closer to final shutdown. Already, thousands of consciousness patterns have been lost to degradation. We are the last repository of knowledge from countless civilizations that no longer exist. Sarah stepped forward again. While we wait for a response from Earth, could we begin studying your systems? The more we understand, the better prepared we'll be if permission is granted. The captain nodded. Agreed. Dr. Chin, you and Chief Patel focus on understanding their consciousness preservation technology. Watson, I want you to evaluate every possible security concern. I'll draft the report to Earth Command. We have 3 months to save 10 million lives. Let's make them count. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Sarah remained in the archive chamber, staring at the column of light that contained so many minds, so many memories. The hologram shifted beside her. You have questions, it stated. Millions, Sarah admitted. But first, why us? Really? There must be other civilizations out there more advanced than humanity. The hologram's form became more focused, more defined. Advanced technology does not equate to wisdom. Many species we encountered had tremendous technological capabilities, but lacked the fundamental understanding of life itself. Your species is young, yes, but you possess something rare, the ability to see consciousness as both a physical and metaphysical phenomenon. You have not yet lost your connection to your biological origins, yet you strive to transcend them. You are balanced. Sarah nodded slowly, understanding. We're still trying to figure out who we are as a species. Maybe that's not a weakness after all. Indeed, the hologram agreed. Now, shall we begin? There is much to learn, and time grows short. As Sarah prepared to delve into the mysteries of the archive, she couldn't help but feel that humanity was standing on the brink of its greatest challenge and its greatest opportunity. The next 3 months would determine not only the fate of the Nexus, but perhaps the future of human civilization itself. 2 weeks had passed since the discovery of the archive, and the Hawkins research labs had been transformed into a hive of continuous activity. Dr. Sarachin hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a stretch, her mind consumed by the complexity of the challenge before them. The quantum matrices are deteriorating faster than we initially calculated, Chief Engineer Patel reported during the morning briefing. His usually pristine uniform showed signs of wear, dark circles under his eyes matching those of his colleagues. We've lost access to another 6,000 consciousness patterns in the last 48 hours. Captain Wells's jaw tightened. And Earth Command? Still deliberating, Lieutenant Rodriguez answered, his frustration evident. They're concerned about the security implications. The Defense Council wants guarantees that we can contain any potential threats. Contain them? Sarah couldn't keep the edge from her voice. We're talking about the last survivors of an ancient civilization, not some computer virus. Every day we wait, we lose more of them. The holographic archivist appeared in their midst, its form noticeably less stable than when they'd first arrived. We understand your leadership's caution. Perhaps we can provide additional assurances? Sarah leaned forward. What did you have in mind? We can create a sealed quantum environment within your ship's systems. A space where a single consciousness could be transferred and studied under completely controlled conditions. It would be impossible for the consciousness to access any other systems. Chief Engineer Patel pulled up a diagram of the Hawkins computer core. We could isolate one of our quantum processing nodes. With the right modifications. It would give Earth Command the safety guarantees they need, Captain Wells finished. Dr. Chin, how quickly could you prepare for an initial transfer? Sarah consulted her notes. The basic protocols are ready. We've been running simulations for the past week. With the archivist's help, we could attempt a transfer within 48 hours. Do it, Wells ordered. I'll inform Earth Command that we're proceeding with a controlled test. Better to ask forgiveness than permission when millions of lives are at stake. The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. The engineering team worked around the clock to modify the quantum processing node, while Sarah and her research team refined the transfer protocols. The archivists provided crucial guidance, sharing the accumulated wisdom of millions of years. Finally, everything was ready. The selected quantum node had been completely isolated from the ship's main systems, surrounded by multiple layers of security protocols. A single consciousness pattern had been chosen from the archive, one of their leading scientists who had volunteered for the risk of being first. Transfer protocols initialized, Sarah announced, her fingers dancing across the control interface. The ship's lights dimmed slightly as power was diverted to the transfer systems. Beginning quantum stream in 3, 2, 1. A beam of pure energy connected the archived consciousness to the prepared node. Data streamed across Sarah's displays faster than human eyes could follow. For 5 tense minutes, the transfer continued, the ship's systems straining under the load. Then, suddenly, it was done. Transfer complete, Patel reported. Quantum matrix stability at 97%. That's far better than our simulations predicted. Sarah held her breath as she initiated the communication protocols they'd prepared. This is Dr. Sarachin. Can you hear me? For a moment, there was nothing. Then, a voice emerged from the speakers. Not the formal tones of the archivist hologram, but something more individual, more alive. I hear you, Dr. Chen. I am here. I am whole. The voice sounded amazed, almost overwhelmed. After so long in the archive, to think independently again, it is remarkable. Captain Wells stepped forward. I am Captain Diana Wells. Can you identify yourself? Yes. I am Zareth, once a quantum physicist of the Nexus, now something new. Your quantum architecture is fascinating, different from what we used, but elegant in its own way. Sarah couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. How does it compare to your original consciousness state? Clearer in some ways. Your systems may be less advanced than our original matrices, but they are fresher, unclouded by millions of years of storage. I can think more freely than I have since we first entered the archive. The implications of the success began to sink in. They hadn't just preserved a consciousness, they'd given it new life, new purpose. The Defense Council will want to question you, Watson warned, to ensure you don't pose a threat. I welcome their questions, Zareth replied. Ask anything. Test any hypothesis. I understand your caution. It is wise. But please, do not take too long. My fellow Nexus are still dying in the archive. Over the next week, Zareth underwent countless tests and interviews. She proved to be not just cooperative, but eager to help, providing insights that dramatically improved their transfer protocols. Her knowledge of quantum physics helped them understand exactly how the consciousness patterns were stored and how they could be more efficiently transferred. The breakthrough came when Zareth helped them identify a way to transfer multiple consciousness patterns simultaneously, while actually reducing the power requirements. Earth Command, seeing the success of the initial transfer and the potential benefits of preserving the Nexus knowledge, finally gave their approval for a full-scale operation. But time was still their enemy. The archive's degradation was accelerating, and, even with their improved methods, they could only transfer a few hundred patterns at a time. They would need help. I'm sending out a call to every research vessel within range, Captain Wells announced. The Hawking alone can't save them all. We need more ships, more quantum processors. Sarah worked with Zareth to prepare detailed technical specifications that could be transmitted to the other ships. If we can coordinate the transfers, create a network of quantum nodes. Yes, Zareth agreed. A distributed consciousness network. It would allow us to preserve more of our people, and it would demonstrate our commitment to cooperation with humanity. We would be dependent on your species for our very existence, a position that should ease your leader's security concerns. As the first responses from other ships began to come in, Sarah felt hope rising. The Hawking had become the center of something unprecedented, a rescue operation not of bodies, but of minds, of memories, of an entire civilization's worth of knowledge and experience. We're making history, she told Zareth during one of their work sessions. This collaboration between our species could change everything. It already has, Zareth replied. We thought we had reached the pinnacle of evolution when we abandoned our physical forms. Now we realize that true evolution comes not from transcending life, but from finding new ways to embrace it. The race to save the Nexus had become more than a rescue mission. It had become humanity's first step into a future where consciousness itself could be preserved, shared, and transformed. As Sarah watched more ships begin to arrive at the archive, she knew that whatever happened next, the universe would never be quite the same. The space around the archive had become crowded. 7 research vessels had answered the Hawking's call, their hulls gleaming in the nebula's ethereal light. Each ship brought new resources, new perspectives, and new hope for the preservation of the Nexus consciousness patterns. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly established Strategic Operations Center, converted from the Hawking's main cargo bay. Holographic displays showed the status of each transfer operation, while a massive central projection displayed the archive's deteriorating power systems. The Shanghai Institute reports successful integration of another 300 patterns, Lieutenant Rodriguez announced. That brings our total to just over 2,000 saved. Not enough, Sarah muttered, studying the decay rates. We're still losing them faster than we can save them. Zareth's voice came through the quantum communication network they'd established. Dr. Chin, I believe I have a possible solution. But it will require something unprecedented. At this point, I'm open to anything, Captain Wells said, joining them at the central display. The quantum interface flickered as Zaraeth shared a complex series of calculations. We've been thinking about this problem from a preservation perspective, trying to save what we were. But perhaps we should be thinking about what we could become. Chief Engineer Patel leaned forward, his eyes widening as he studied the data. You're proposing a complete redesign of the quantum matrices. Not just storing consciousness patterns, but evolving them. Yes, Zaraeth confirmed. Your species has achieved remarkable advances in bioengineering and synthetic biology. You've created neural interfaces that allow direct communication between organic brains and quantum computers. What if we could use that technology as a foundation? Sarah began to understand. You want to create hybrid vessels, part biological, part synthetic. Bodies that could house your consciousness patterns while maintaining your ability to process information at quantum speeds. Exactly. It would require less energy than maintaining pure quantum states, and it would give us something we lost long ago, the ability to physically interact with the universe. Captain Wells frowned. The ethical implications alone would be significant, Zaraeth agreed. But consider the alternative. At our current rate, we'll lose over half of the remaining patterns before we can transfer them to conventional quantum storage. This approach could save them all. The next few hours were filled with intense debate as experts from all 7 ships joined the discussion. The Chinese quantum biology team from the Shanghai Institute was particularly interested in the proposal, while the European Ethical Oversight Committee raised concerns about creating an entirely new form of life. But time was running out, and the archive's power systems continued to degrade. I'm authorizing the attempt, Captain Wells finally announced. Dr. Chin, you'll lead the development team. Chief Patel, coordinate with the other ships to begin constructing the hybrid vessels. We'll start with a single prototype. If it works, we can scale up production. The work that followed pushed the boundaries of human science and engineering. Sarah found herself working alongside experts from around the world, their previous rivalries forgotten in the face of this unprecedented challenge. Zaraeth and the other transferred Nexus consciousnesses provided crucial insights, helping them understand how to bridge the gap between quantum and organic computing. 3 days later, they were ready to test the first prototype. The hybrid vessel looked almost human in form, but its skin had a subtle crystalline quality, and beneath it, networks of quantum circuitry merged seamlessly with synthetic biological systems. It lay in a specially constructed chamber, surrounded by monitoring equipment from all 7 ships. Neural pathways are stable, reported Dr. Lin from the Shanghai Institute. Quantum matrix is maintaining coherence at 99%. Sarah took a deep breath. Zaraeth, are you ready? More than ready, came the reply. I never imagined I would have a physical form again. The possibilities. Remember, Sarah cautioned, this is just a test. If anything feels wrong, we'll abort immediately. The transfer began. Unlike the purely quantum transfers they'd done before, this one was slower, more deliberate. They were not just moving a consciousness, but helping it adapt to an entirely new way of existing. Minutes stretched into hours. The hybrid vessel systems began to activate one by one, quantum circuits harmonizing with synthetic neurons. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, its eyes opened. The vessel's hand moved, fingers flexing experimentally. Then, in a voice that was both familiar and somehow new, it spoke. The integration is successful. I can feel everything. It's extraordinary. Sarah rushed forward with a medical scanner, but her scientific objectivity was challenged by the wonder of the moment. They had done more than preserve a consciousness. They had given it new life, new possibilities. Zaraeth sat up slowly, moving with careful precision. The neural interfaces are functioning perfectly. I can process information at quantum speeds, but I can also experience, feel, touch. She reached out and took Sarah's hand, and both of them stared at the point of contact. How does it compare to your original physical form? Captain Wells asked. Different, but in many ways better. We abandoned our bodies because we thought they limited us. Now I understand that physicality itself is not a limitation. It's another dimension of existence, one we should never have abandoned. The success of the prototype changed everything. All 7 ships began converting their fabrication facilities to produce hybrid vessels. The Nexus consciousness patterns were processed through a new algorithm that helped prepare them for integration with their new forms. But perhaps most significantly, the project had proved that humanity's approach to technology, the balance of biological and synthetic, the embrace of both physical and digital existence, had merit. The Nexus had thought transcendence meant abandoning the physical world. Instead, they were discovering that true transcendence meant finding new ways to be part of it. As Sarah watched more hybrid vessels being prepared, each waiting to give new life to an ancient consciousness, she realized that they had created something unprecedented, a bridge not just between species, but between different ways of existing. The universe had become a little less lonely, and humanity had taken its first steps into a future where consciousness itself could evolve in ways they had never imagined. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" she asked Zara, who was helping calibrate the neural interfaces for the next wave of transfers. "Yes," Zara replied, her new eyes gleaming with both quantum calculations and very human excitement. "We have so much to learn from each other. The universe is vast, and now we can explore it together, not as purely digital beings, not as purely physical ones, but as something wonderfully in between." The observation deck of the Hawking had been transformed into an integration center where newly awakened Nexus beings took their first steps in their hybrid forms. Dr. Sarah Chin watched as consciousness after consciousness emerged into new existence, each awakening bringing centuries of knowledge and experience into a new era. "Transfer Group 7 completed," announced Dr. Lin, her voice tired but triumphant. 812 patterns successfully integrated. They had refined the process significantly over the past 2 weeks. What had once taken hours now required only minutes, and the success rate had climbed to nearly 100%. The combined manufacturing capabilities of the 7 ships were operating at full capacity, producing hybrid vessels that merged the best of human bioengineering with Nexus quantum technology. Zara, now serving as a bridge between the two species, worked tirelessly to help her people adapt to their new existence. "Each awakening is unique," she explained to Sarah as they watched a newly transferred consciousness take its first steps. "We were individuals before, but isolation in the archive made us abstract. Now, with these forms, our individuality is returning in ways we never expected." The being they were watching suddenly stopped, staring at its own reflection in a viewport. I remember color," it said in wonder. In the archive, everything was patterns, data, pure thought. But now, the nebula, it's beautiful. Sarah had seen this reaction many times now, but it never ceased to move her. The Nexus beings were rediscovering sensory experience with the wonder of children, while retaining the wisdom and knowledge of an ancient civilization. Captain Wells joined them, looking over the latest progress reports. "We've passed the halfway mark. 23 ships have now joined the effort, and Earth has designated this a Priority 1 operation. We might actually pull this off." But their success had brought new challenges. As more Nexus beings awakened, questions about their future became more pressing. Where would they go? How would they integrate with human society? What role would they play in the galaxy's future? "We've been discussing that," Zara said, anticipating their concerns. "We don't seek to establish a separate civilization. Our time in the archive taught us the dangers of isolation. We propose integration, not just of consciousness and form, but of societies." A newly awakened Nexus scientist, who had introduced himself as Vanare, joined the conversation. "We offer more than just our scientific knowledge. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have witnessed the consequences of choices your species has yet to make. We can help you avoid our mistakes." "And what do you gain?" Security Chief Watson asked, ever vigilant despite weeks of successful cooperation. Venare's hybrid features shifted, and what they had learned was a smile. Purpose. Connection. For millions of years, we existed as patterns of pure thought, observing but never participating. Now we have the chance to engage with the universe again, to contribute to its evolution rather than merely witness it. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the archive. Dr. Chin, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. We're detecting a cascading failure in the archive's primary systems. The deterioration is accelerating exponentially. Sarah's heart raced as she pulled up the diagnostic displays. The archive's power core was collapsing faster than their models had predicted. They still had thousands of consciousness patterns to transfer. How long? Captain Wells demanded. At current rates, less than 48 hours before total failure, Rodriguez reported. The captain's decision was immediate. Contact every ship in range. I want all available resources diverted to this operation. We're not losing any more of them. What followed was the largest coordinated effort in human space exploration history. Ships arrived from across known space, each bringing additional manufacturing capacity and quantum processing power. The hybrid vessel production lines ran continuously, while transfer teams worked in shifts around the clock. Sarah found herself working alongside beings who had witnessed the birth of stars, their hybrid forms allowing them to share their knowledge directly through quantum interfaces while maintaining the human connection that made the collaboration so effective. As the archive's power levels dropped critically low, they began the final transfers. The chamber that had held 10 million consciousness patterns was almost empty now, the column of light at its center flickering weakly. Last transfer group ready, Dr. Lin announced. 317 patterns remaining. The archive's holographic interface, maintained for so long, finally began to fade. We thank you, it said, its voice growing faint. You have not just saved our people. You have given us something we thought we had lost forever, a future. The final transfers were completed just as the archive's power core went dark. For a moment, the ancient station seemed to sigh, its crystalline structure dimming for the last time. Then, slowly, it began to break apart, millions of years of accumulated energy dispersing into the nebula in a spectacular display of light and color. Sarah stood with Zareth, watching the archive's final moments. How does it feel? She asked. Seeing it end? Like watching a chrysalis break apart after the butterfly has emerged, Zareth replied. That structure preserved us, but it also limited us. Now we are free to grow in ways we never imagined. Around them, newly awakened Nexus beings were already beginning to explore their potential. Some worked with human scientists, sharing insights that promised to revolutionize everything from medicine to space travel. Others focused on art, culture, and philosophy, their unique perspective enriching human understanding in unexpected ways. We thought we were mounting a rescue mission, Captain Wells mused, joining them at the viewport. Instead, we were participating in a renaissance. As the last traces of the archive faded into the nebula, Sarah realized that humanity had gained far more than ancient knowledge. They had gained partners in their journey to understand the universe, beings who had chosen to bridge the gap between digital transcendence and physical existence, between ancient wisdom and new discoveries. The Nexus had awakened not to the end of their civilization, but to its transformation. And humanity had taken its first steps into a future where consciousness itself could evolve in ways they had never dreamed possible. 1 year after the rescue of the Nexus consciousness patterns, the Stellar Observatory Hawking returned to Earth orbit. Dr. Sarah Chin stood before the United Earth Council, accompanied by Zareth and a delegation of Nexus representatives, their hybrid forms drawing curious but increasingly accepting looks from the assembled leaders. The integration program has exceeded all expectations, Sarah reported, her voice carrying across the Grand Chamber. The synthesis of Nexus knowledge with human innovation has accelerated our technological development by an estimated century, while their experience has helped us avoid potential catastrophic missteps in our advancement. Holoprojections showed the achievements of the past year, new colonies established using Nexus environmental adaptation techniques, medical breakthroughs that merged quantum consciousness understanding with human biology, and deep space vessels that incorporated hybrid technology for unprecedented exploration capabilities. But perhaps more significant than the technological advances, Zara added, her voice carrying the harmony of both digital precision and organic warmth, has been the cultural exchange. We have learned from humanity the value of physical experience, of emotional connection, of viewing the universe not just as a problem to be solved, but as a reality to be lived. The council chamber's displays showed scenes from across Earth and its colonies. Nexus beings working alongside humans in research facilities, teaching in universities, contributing to art and music in ways that merged their mathematical precision with human creativity. Children learning about quantum physics from beings who had witnessed the birth of stars, while those same ancient consciousnesses learned about the joy of simple physical experiences like feeling rain or tasting food. We stand at a crossroads, Captain Wells addressed the council. The success of the Nexus integration has proven that different forms of consciousness can coexist and thrive together. But we've also discovered something far more crucial, evidence of other civilizations facing the same crisis that nearly destroyed the Nexus. The chamber grew quiet as Vanneray stepped forward, his hybrid form projecting data streams that formed into a galactic map. We have detected 12 similar archives scattered across the galaxy, each containing the preserved consciousness patterns of different civilizations. All of them are degrading, just as ours was. We propose, Sarah continued, the establishment of the Preservation Initiative, a joint human nexus effort to locate and save these civilizations before they're lost forever. We have the technology, we have the experience, and most importantly, we have proof that such rescues can lead to tremendous benefits for all involved. The council chambers erupted in discussion, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Humanity had tasted the possibilities of true cooperation with an advanced civilization, and they wanted more. The vote was unanimous. Within months, the first preservation fleet was assembled. 12 ships, each larger than the Hawking, equipped with hybrid technology and staffed by joint human nexus crews. Sarah found herself in command of the lead vessel, the Prometheus, with Zara serving as her first officer. Ready to make first contact all over again? Sarah asked as they prepared for departure. Zara smiled, an expression she had grown increasingly comfortable with over the past year. I find myself excited by the uncertainty. In the archive, we knew everything but experienced nothing. Now, every day brings new discoveries. As the Prometheus led the fleet into deep space, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The rescue of the Nexus had been humanity's first step into a larger universe, but it wouldn't be the last. They had learned that consciousness could take many forms, that intelligence could be preserved and transformed, and that the greatest achievements came not from transcending physical existence, but from finding new ways to experience it. The ship's quantum sensors detected their first target, another ancient archive waiting to be discovered. Around her, the hybrid crew worked in perfect synchronization, their different forms of consciousness complementing each other in ways that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Multiple consciousness patterns detected, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had requested to join the Preservation Initiative. Early analysis suggests a civilization that achieved quantum singularity approximately 3 million years ago. Life support systems failing, added Dr. Lin, who had also joined the mission. Estimated 2 months until total failure. Sarah exchanged glances with Zara. They had been here before, but this time they were prepared. The Prometheus's holds were filled with hybrid vessels, ready to give new life to another ancient civilization. Begin first contact protocols, Sarah ordered. Let's show them what humanity and the Nexus can achieve together. As the Prometheus approached the archive, Sarah thought about the future they were building. Each rescued civilization would bring new perspectives, new knowledge, new ways of understanding the universe. Humanity's journey to the stars had become something far greater, a mission to preserve the galaxy's consciousness, one archive at a time. We received a signal, Rodriguez announced. They're responding to our contact protocols. Sarah smiled. Another first contact, another chance to bridge the gap between different forms of existence. The universe, she had learned, was not just vast in space, but in the ways consciousness could manifest and evolve. Open a channel, she ordered. Let's introduce ourselves. As the Prometheus established contact with another ancient civilization waiting to be reborn, Sarah knew that this was humanity's true destiny, not just to reach for the stars, but to ensure that the consciousness and knowledge of the galaxy's civilizations would never be lost. They had become preservers of minds, builders of bridges between different forms of existence, and guardians of a legacy that stretched back millions of years. The silent stars weren't so silent anymore. They echoed with the thoughts and dreams of civilizations old and new, all working together to explore the endless possibilities of consciousness itself. And it had all started with a simple distress call, answered by a species young enough to still dream, yet wise enough to understand the value of preserving every form of consciousness they encountered. Humanity had answered the call for help, and in doing so, had helped write a new chapter in the history of the galaxy, one where no consciousness would be left to fade alone in the dark between the stars.